The prisoner only took a glance at the prison exit, but was shoved to the ground by a passing inmate, warning him not to try to escape. Other inmates also rushed over to calm things down, saying they were doing this to protect him. Such ridiculous words left Thomas completely confused, yet the next second, he turned his head to look, and suddenly heard a deep roar coming from the passage. The force of the sound was strong enough to blow the leaves on the ground. Before Thomas could react, the exit gate slammed shut, cutting off the passage inside and out.
I'm gonna let you leave.
And the danger was not just the monsters. There were also extremely strict rules. Once someone went out without permission or broke the rules, everyone wooed before sunset, and used long poles to drive them to the other side of the gate, as a sacrifice to the unknown monsters inside.
Belongs to the maze now.
Turns out the outside of the prison they were in was a maze. The entrance would open at dawn and close at dusk. The monsters inside also hid during the day and came out at night. Every month, the elevator in the middle of the prison would send some supplies and a newcomer, and without exception everyone had their memories wiped, only remembering their names. So no one knew why they were here or how to get out, because the maze changed every night. Their 3-year search for a route never found an exit until Thomas arrived. A shocking conspiracy hidden for years finally began to surface. Like most people when he first came, he was filled with fear and confusion. After being locked in the dark room to calm down, Old Black, as the leader, explained the basic situation of the maze and warned him the tribe had 2 rules. First was no attacking companions. Second was that besides the runners, no one was allowed to enter the maze. This made Thomas extremely curious about the maze, but after witnessing how dangerous it was, he obediently gave up the idea of going in, until when he was digging in the woods, he ran into a strange runner. Even though they didn't know each other, the man looked like he wanted to eat him alive. Before Thomas could react, the man suddenly leapt and pinned him to the ground, yelling that Thomas was the mastermind behind the maze, leaving him completely baffled. Seeing the man about to kill him, luckily Thomas grabbed the skull from the ground and knocked him out. Barely escaping the woods, his companions rushed over, knocking the man unconscious and saving Thomas. At first the man was struggling desperately, but when he saw Old Black arrive, he instantly calmed down, because he knew what attacking a companion meant. Old Black ordered them to lift his shirt. Turns out the runner was stung by a monster which caused his madness. But what confused him was, how did he encounter a monster while outside during the day, and previous poisoned people, besides rambling and going crazy, never targeted a single person so violently. Thomas repeated what the man had said. Old Black seemed to realize something, gave him a meaningful look and left, after finishing the punishment for the rule-breaking runner. The next day, he set out to investigate the cause of the runner's injury. Thomas was curious and wanted to go, but because of the rules, he could only wait where he was. Unexpectedly, as dusk approached, Old Black and the other runners still hadn't returned, until the gate began to close. Miho appeared at the end of the passage carrying the heavily injured Old Black. Because of the extra weight, Miho struggled to move forward, but instead of helping, everyone only told him to drop Old Black. Thomas wanted to know what happened to him, so he clenched his teeth. Seeing himself almost get crushed, Thomas was terrified, while Miho was speechless. He had seen people unafraid of death, but never someone running in to die on purpose. Thomas asked what happened to Old Black, but Miho didn't know either. They split up, and when they regrouped, Old Black was already poisoned, so he had no choice but to knock him out. As he finished speaking, the monster's roar echoed nearby, followed by the sound of gears turning. The maze had begun to change. Miho hurried to support Old Black to find a hiding place, but the maze was full of smooth high walls, with no cover at all, and with the constant roars, Miho broke down, stood up intending to abandon Old Black and run. Luckily, Thomas suddenly noticed the vines covering the wall seemed like a good spot, so he called Miho to hang Old Black up high. But before they could secure him, the monster came down the passage. Thinking of how their companions had died, Miho hesitated but still decided to run, almost ruining everything. As the monster approached, Thomas, refusing to give up, hid beneath the vines and waited. As 6 mechanical legs slowly came into view, Thomas' heart leapt into his throat. Luckily, the monster didn't stop, and once it moved away, he quickly tied the vines to the roots, then hid around the corner, dodging the monster's search. But he never expected the monster could climb walls. A drop of thick slime suddenly fell on his shoulder. Thomas looked up and nearly fainted. Before he could react, he bolted deeper into the maze, but no matter how he dodged, the monster caught up easily, knowing the maze like the back of its hand. In his panic, Thomas climbed a low wall using the vines, but reached a dead end, and when he turned back, the monster had already blocked the path. With death either way, Thomas decided to risk it, and jumped toward the vines on the opposite side. Luckily, he didn't fall, but unfortunately, the monster made the jump too. Thomas dodged the stabbing tail, but the vines couldn't hold, ripping off the wall, sending both man and monster crashing down. But luckily, the vines tangled the monster, keeping it from moving. Thomas took the chance to run, running right into Miho, who had come back. Miho dragged him toward the safe route, hoping to use the maze's shifting structure to shake the monster, but Thomas suddenly stopped, saw the passage slowly closing, and had a daring idea to use the closing gap to kill the monster. So he ran forward, luring the monster to attack him. The next morning, everyone waited at the gate. When no miracle appeared, they all lost hope. Only Chunk stayed there refusing to accept reality. And just then, a blonde suddenly shouted in shock. Thomas and Miho had returned with Old Black, completely unharmed. Yet because of the rules, no one even dared help. They could only stretch out their arms to catch the unconscious Old Black. When they learned Thomas had killed a monster, everyone was stunned. But what they didn't expect was, even though Thomas made huge contributions, Gally, the third leader, still insisted on punishing him for breaking the rules, saying ever since Thomas arrived, the maze had been acting strange. First the runner was stung during the day, then Old Black, now a monster was killed. Who knew what consequences this would bring? After he said this, most people felt it was unfair, and with the second leader and Miho defending him, Gally had no choice. And at that moment, the elevator alarm suddenly sounded outside. Everyone was confused, because only 4 days had passed since the last supply drop. They opened the cage, but inside was only a woman. Before anyone could celebrate, the second leader found a note in her hand, saying this was the last person, meaning no more supplies would come. Everyone stared at each other. Only Thomas showed a subtle panic after seeing the woman's face. The next second, after saying that she fainted again, but her words echoed in everyone's mind, Thomas became the prime suspect.
You still think I'm overreacting?
Whether he was paranoid didn't matter. What mattered was the supplies were gone, and there was no way out. How were they supposed to survive? Thomas suddenly remembered. The monster from last night seemed brainless, yet knew the maze extremely well. Perhaps clues to escape were on the monster, so he turned to go back into the maze. Miho tried to stop him, but after hearing his reasoning, felt it made sense, and helped gather 3 brave runners to go with them. After circling inside, they reached the corpse. Thomas immediately noticed the flashing red light in the middle. After pulling off the remains, Miho found a metal device inside the monster, with the number 7 on it. It looked familiar. After thinking, Miho realized something. He reported their findings to the second leader, then brought Thomas to his secret base. Inside was a detailed 3D model of the maze. Turns out long ago, Miho had traveled through the entire maze, and learned all its patterns, knowing there was no exit. The only reason he still ran every day was because he and Old Black didn't want everyone losing hope. But the number 7 on the device made him truly see hope, because from what he knew, the maze was divided into 8 zones. Each night one of them would open, changing the structure, and the day Thomas killed the monster was the day Zone 7 opened. So Miho suspected the monster came from Zone 7. If it could come in, then it might also be the way out. So they decided to investigate the next day. But the next moment, 2 companions rushed in, saying the girl had woken up, having lost her memory. She rejected everyone, so Thomas had to shout his name. Only then did she calm down, and allowed him to climb the watchtower. Everyone thought Thomas was getting lucky, but the moment he climbed up, he faced a machete. Even stranger, she only remembered his name, but didn't recognize him. The only thing they shared was the same dream. Thomas had dreamed of being in a lab, lying on an operating table next to a woman, which was now Teresa, while doctors repeated one sentence.
Wicked is good.
So that's why she looked familiar. But why were the 2 of them different? Teresa was also confused, and she found 2 syringes in her pocket. Thomas looked at them, and saw the same label as the monster device. Thinking of wicked is good, he suspected the mastermind was telling them they were friendly, and the only one who currently needed treatment was Old Black lying in bed. The second leader hesitated, but figured dead early dead late, so he took the gamble. But the moment Old Black saw Thomas, he went mad like the previous runner, trying to tear him apart. Luckily Teresa grabbed the needle, and injected him. Old Black finally calmed down, but why would the mastermind want to save him? To figure that out, they had to leave the maze. So the next morning, Thomas and Miho entered the maze. After maneuvering through, they reached Zone 7. Seeing the gate still open, Miho was confused, because Zone 7 wasn't supposed to open until next week. But since they were already there, they went on. As they got deeper, Thomas noticed the device in his pack began to buzz. After testing movement, he found the buzzing changed with direction, so he guessed it was a tracker. Following its signal, they reached a massive bridge. Even Miho, who had run the whole maze, had never seen it. Thinking they would find something new, they instead found a dead end. Miho was disappointed, but the next second, the indicator light turned green. The 2 had just found the mysterious monster's lair in the maze, but a strange noise suddenly came from inside. Maybe it detected a wrong form. Soon alarms started flaring around them. Along with the sound of gears turning, the 2 realized something was wrong, and they bolted for the bridge. Sure enough, the next second the gate started to close. Right after that, the steel jungle outside also began to shut. Worried they would be trapped inside, the 2 sprinted with everything they had, but halfway through Thomas suddenly fell behind. With no time to think, he quickly turned and searched for a side exit. Miho ran ahead of him to guide the way. They barely squeezed out through the last opening, but the even scarier traps were still behind them. The moment they reached an open area, cracks suddenly formed in the ground, for towering gates shot up from below. Before they could react, a massive square hammer slammed toward them. More traps immediately started up, luckily with incredible speed. They dodged every trap just before it fell. As long as they cleared the final gate, they would escape the danger completely. Watching the gate slam shut, Thomas felt a wave of fear. Little did he know trespassing here would bring disaster upon the entire village. The people waiting outside the maze all looked excited when they heard they might have found an exit. Only the third in command, Gally, poured cold water on the idea, saying the other side of the tunnel might just be more monsters. Thomas was gambling with everyone's lives. Fed up, Thomas turned around and snapped back.
Gally, I mean, what have you done, huh? Aside from hide behind these walls all the time.
Unable to argue, Gally brought up his seniority, but seniority without results carries no weight. As the two argued, Carrie suddenly showed up and stopped them, then told them Albie had woken up. But strangely, the awakened Albie sat on the bed crying. He didn't even react to the good news about getting out, because he didn't believe Thomas could be that kind. It turned out that after recovering from poisoning, Albie regained part of his old memories, and remembered Thomas as one of the people who locked them in the maze.
Why did you do this? Why did you come here?
Before anyone could ask more, a loud noise suddenly they rushed out and learned the maze gate was acting strange and didn't close on schedule. This had never happened in 3 years. While everyone was confused, a thunder. The other 7 massive walls opened as well. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Thomas realized something was wrong and quickly told everyone to arm themselves. But it was too late. The monsters had already entered the clearing, and deep in the tunnels behind them.
Everybody hide!
But no matter how fast Two Legs ran, they were no match for the 6-legged mechanical scorpion monsters. In an instant, the tribe was filled with screams. The third in command led people into an iron cage and survived for the moment. Thomas and the others also dove into the cornfield, but forgot to extinguish their torches, so the monsters easily found them, scaring them into fleeing elsewhere. Heading for the tribe's strongest meeting room, the monster tried to break in, but soon stopped, lowered its head and studied the inside. Seeing many people with weapons, it chose to avoid the fight, slowly crawled onto the roof, found the weakest point, and in everyone's confusion, stabbed its tail straight through the roof, breaking a main beam. The falling would send everyone into chaos, and the monster picked them off one by one. Grabbing Chuck, Thomas and the others ran to help, but they only managed to hold it off. Just as the monster raised its stinger, Albie rushed forward with a knife and chopped the stinger clean off, then hacked at its tail like crazy. To their surprise, he actually drove it away, but before they could catch their breath, the monster returned and took Albie away. Knowing he wouldn't survive, and realizing Thomas truly cared, he quickly told him, "You have to get everyone out of the maze." Thomas refused to give up, ran outside hoping to save him, but the monsters had vanished. It seemed their only goal had been Albie. Gally lost his temper and punched Thomas, saying everything happened because he trespassed in the maze.
You heard what Albie said? He's one of them! One of who? He's one of them, and they sent him here to destroy everything, and now he has!
Thomas had no way to argue. He didn't understand any of it. Looking at the severed stinger, and realizing there was one dose of the antidote left, he wondered if the mastermind wanted him to regain his memories by using Albie as an example. Thinking of this, Thomas grabbed the stinger and stabbed it into his thigh. As his mind turned blurry, fragments of memory flooded back. He and Carrie really were part of the organization and seemed to be important members. They put everyone in the maze to run an experiment, but the exact purpose wasn't in his memories. Everything seemed predetermined. Then the scene shifted. Thomas jolted awake and found himself and Carrie locked in a dungeon. Gally had stirred panic and seized power. He decided to exile them before sunset. Seeing Thomas unfazed, Miho grew confused, so Thomas told them the truth about the maze and about his and Carrie's real identities. Why they entered the maze no longer mattered. What mattered was what the experiment was for. They decided to escape as soon as possible. Thomas pretended to be unconscious to make Gally's group drop their guard, but unexpectedly, Gally didn't plan to exile them. He wanted to tie them to stakes and sacrifice them to the monsters for peace. At the last second, Thomas suddenly attacked and took the executioner's weapon. The second in command and Miho immediately joined in. In less than 30 seconds, they took control of the situation. The tribe, which had seemed united, was now split into 2 factions. Thomas knew Gally was far too stubborn and didn't waste words. He warned everyone, "This is your only chance to get out." Gally tried to regain support, saying Thomas was only scaring them.
Alright, I'm scared. But I'd rather risk my life out there than spending the rest of it in here. We don't belong here. Okay, this place isn't our home.
Moved by Thomas's conviction, some people began walking to his side. Seeing only a few followers left, Gally knew he had lost, but still refused to move. Since everyone had their own path, they split up. Thomas led everyone, and after several turns, reached section 7 of the maze. But to his surprise, the monsters that should hide during the day were guarding the bridge exit. The group's passion turned to despair. This was when leadership mattered.
Once we're through, it'll activate, and the door will open. And we stay close, we stick together, we get through this. We get out now, or we die trying. Ready? Let's go!
but even with spears and desperate courage, they couldn't hurt the monster at all. They finally pushed it into the abyss, but the next moment, more monsters crawled out, chasing Carrie, who held the key. The others quickly formed a line to hold them back, while Carrie and another slipped away to open the gate and climbed into the tunnel exit. But the final door wasn't motion activated. It was an 8-digit code lock. Carrie quickly told Thomas, hearing 8 numbers. He immediately thought of the 8 maze sections and asked Miho the daily opening order, but halfway through entering it, a monster dropped from above and pinned Miho. At the critical moment, Little Ben dashed forward and drove his spear into the monster's neck, saving Miho, but losing his own life. There was no time to grieve. They fought while retreating. As the final 4 digits were entered, the gate opened and the doors dropped, trapping or crushing the monsters. Before they could celebrate, the tunnel door slammed shut. In the dark, they groped and opened a steel door, entering a corridor. There was only one door. It was probably the exit, but it seemed too simple. No one knew whether to open it. Thomas felt the same, but finally mustered the courage and opened the door. What greeted them was a lab, corpses on the floor, and bullet holes on the screens, proving there had been a gunfight recently. Thomas nervously approached the workstation from his memories. A red dot on the screen stood out. He tapped it, and the large display lit up.
My name is Dr. Ava Page. I'm Director of Operations of the World Catastrophe Kill Zone Department. If you're watching this, that means you've successfully completed the maze trials. I wish I could be there in person to congratulate you.
Years ago, the sun released massive flares, raising Earth's temperature, turning oases into deserts. Countless people died from heat and fires, and from starvation. The survivors soon suffered a disease called the flare. It attacked the brain, driving patients into endless madness. Scientists had no cure, but they discovered something. Some newborns had immunity. To study this immunity, the division locked the immune kids in the maze, because only in harsh conditions could they study how their brains differed from normal ones. But unfortunately, a rebel group opposed this method, and since no results came out for years, the rebels stormed the base and forced the experiment to stop. So the doctor hoped the survivors would carry on the mission to save humanity.
The outside world awaits. Remember, wicked is good.
The doctor's corpse proved she wasn't lying, but her words were vague. She didn't explain why Thomas and Carrie were sent inside, nor what they should do next. Everyone looked at Thomas, but he was confused too. With everything happening, leaving the base was the best option, just as they prepared to go.
No.
Gally suddenly appeared, holding a gate key, probably taken from a dead monster, and he had also recovered memories from the stinger, and saw the recording. He knew the outside world was dangerous, so he planned to kill Thomas with a gun, and take everyone back to the maze. But at the last second, Chuck stepped in front of Thomas. Gally fell to the ground, but Chuck suddenly felt dizzy. Thomas looked down and saw the bullet had hit Chuck's chest. He used his life to save Thomas. Before dying, Chuck handed Thomas a stone carving, hoping he could give it to his parents someday. Sadly, he never knew who his parents were, nor had any memory of them. As everyone mourned, a group of soldiers rushed in, dragging them out of the base. Outside was endless desert. They boarded a helicopter and finally saw the entire maze. The central clearing might be the only oasis left in the world. They felt overwhelmed, not knowing whether leaving was right or wrong, nor did they expect. The recording was all staged. The doctor wiped off the ketchup on her face and announced the maze experiment was a success.
I wasn't expecting so many survivors, but the more the merrier. Thomas continues to surprise and impress. And for now, they seem to have taken the bait. It's time now to begin phase 2.
From her words, it was clear the remaining people in the maze had no value and would likely be eliminated. Thomas and the others had fallen into another trap awaiting them ahead.